speaking of catastrophic, something happened the other day to two Steelers players that, I mean, if you look about with one of the names of the players, it really couldn't be more perfect for a stand-up comedian or jokes or anywhere. But LeGarrette Blount and starting running back Le'Veon Bell got pulled over for a DUI under the influence of marijuana and high. These are the top two running backs for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they got pulled over basically under DUI, smoking weed, or they smoked it a while ago. But then they went on to play their preseason game that was against Philadelphia, which the Browns which the Steelers conveniently played horrible in. Now, Mike, I want to ask you, if you're the Steelers, would you have played LeGarrette Blount and Le'Veon Bell in that preseason game?
I mean, that's tough. I think Mike Tomlin had a real tough decision. I mean, these are two guys. These two guys gave you over 1,500 yards combined last year with 15 touchdowns. So these are your two main guys. So for a team that I feel was the divisional favorites going into the preseason with these two guys, it's definitely a big blow, no pun intended. But
Good one.
I will say it's tough because I almost see where Mike Tomlin's coming from, because you don't know what kind of trouble they're in yet. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
There's no arrest. Like, you don't know what is going to happen. You know what I mean? So I feel like once you kind of get down in the judiciary sense and you see what kind of punishment they have, then you can kind of make your own disciplinary actions. Would I have played them? I definitely would not have played them. The first week after, the same week they get pulled over, they play. Now, Mike Tomlin said that he played them more for a punishment. I don't know how you feel about that, but me personally, I wouldn't have played them.
I mean, I don't understand why Mike Tomlin would say that, because these guys love playing football. It's not punishment for them. Go play more minutes in your pastime in the thing you love. Go play more time. Like, I'm sorry, if someone told me to go play wiffle ball outside as punishment, I'd go do it in a heartbeat. I wouldn't think that's punishment at all. Like,
right.
It's one of those things. I don't agree with Mike Tomlin's reasoning at all there.
Yeah, like I said, it's a tough choice. And I mean, if you look at the Steelers' schedule, because you figure, you don't even know with the suspensions now. We have no idea how many games they're going to get suspended. But the first 4 games in the Steelers' schedule versus your Cleveland Browns in Pittsburgh, at the Ravens, which is always a big game. They got to go to Carolina, and then they play Tampa Bay. So, the Browns, Tampa Bay, those can be wins, but you got to play at Baltimore, and you got to go into Carolina and play. So, I mean, that's a big blow if they don't happen the first couple games of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. What you said before, I have no idea how long the suspensions are going to last. Like, I don't know anymore. Roger Goodell skewed up my whole thinking on suspensions when he only suspended Ray Rice 2 games. And I don't know what to expect anymore. My guess is going to be that LeGarrette Blount doesn't get suspended and he only gets fined, and Le'Veon Bell gets 2 to 4 games. That's my guess. But I have no idea going forward. I don't know what to expect.
Their comments after the arrest did not help them either.
No, they did not.
It might have been, was it Le'Veon Bell who came out with that, with the comments, or was it LeGarrette Blount?
I have Le'Veon Bell's quote here. He said, "I didn't know you could get DUI from being high. I smoked 2 hours ago. I'm not high anymore. I am perfectly fine. Why would I be getting high if I were to get on a plane to make it to my game? I have to be on my plane at 3 to be in Philadelphia. I play for the Steelers." That's not a smart thing to say. Maybe I'm doing that. That's just not a smart thing to say.
Homie, I would give him an extra game just for the comment. I would give him an extra for the comment. Like, if they came out and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, it was a boneheaded move," because, I mean, let's face it, Le'Veon Bell, he's going into his second full year in the NFL. He's still considered a baby. He's our age, basically, Stanko. So, like, he's young. LeGarrette Blount's 27, 28 years old and has been on your prestigious New England Patriots. So he should know a little bit better than to do these types of things. So,
well, the thing is, I mean, sorry to cut you off, but I just remember LeGarrette Blount. I believe he played at Oregon, correct? And he's the one who punched a player at the end of the game.
Yes.
If I'm remembering correctly. And at Tampa Bay, where he got drafted, if I recall, he didn't have a good relationship with the team when they parted ways.
Right.
So you got to think trouble is followed LeGarrette Blount, and face it, the Patriots are good at covering up trouble. whether it be for good or bad. They're good at covering it up. So, I mean, maybe we just didn't hear about it when he was there. But you got to think LeGarrette Blount's kind of a bad influence everywhere he's been except for the Patriots. So you got to wonder if you're the Steelers, if Le'Veon Bell's your future, do you want to keep him safe? And there are talks to cut LeGarrette Blount. People in Pittsburgh on their radio shows I was reading, they want to cut Blount to get rid of the bad influence.
I mean, they can't do it right now. I mean, you need a solid backup running back, especially for a guy who hasn't really proved himself yet in Bell. Yeah, he had a rookie year last year, and they expect him to have a big season this year. They expect him to be a 1,000-yard rusher this year, but you can't guarantee that right now.
Oh,
no. A guy who hasn't really proved himself, hasn't played a full year in the NFL yet, and then you got to rely on this guy when you have a kind of, not a seasoned vet, but a veteran enough in LeGarrette Blount who can kind of do the dirty work for him.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. The only thing I'm hearing is that I've been listening to a fantasy football podcast, and Matthew Berry has really convinced me on this point. If you look at Le'Veon Bell's first season, it compares a lot to Trent Richardson. Not a lot of yards per carry, but got a lot of touchdowns. And you look at Trent Richardson now, he's not that successful of a running back anymore. So I don't know if you want to be a little bit hesitant, but that might just be Matthew Berry looking into stats, and obviously Matthew Berry knows more than I about stats or anything else. But I just thought it was an interesting point that maybe Le'Veon Bell, this would be a season to disprove any doubters that he had, and he's not off to a good start.
Yeah, it's gonna be a mess. But how many games do you think that they're gonna get suspended for, if any?
I think Blount is not going to get suspended because he wasn't the one driving; he was just a passenger. I mean, I don't think he's getting suspended. I think he'll get a nice fine. But I think Le'Veon Bell is probably going to get, I'd say, at least 2 games, possibly 4. I think the comments he said after might have something to do with it. If he tries to appeal, I think the NFL is going to say, well, look at your comments after. You don't feel sorry for it. Why are we going to accept your appeal? So I think that I'm going to say 2 games. I'm going to say 2 games for Bell. And that would be my estimate, but I wouldn't be surprised with 4.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be either 2 or 4. And, yeah, you raised a good point about Blount because he didn't drive, yet he was still in possession. And, I mean, that's wrong place, wrong time. So I feel like they'll fine him, but he might get a game too, just to be in the car with them. Granted, he didn't drive, but also he was the one who, I mean, he could have stopped it too. Like I said, him being the older veteran could have known that this wasn't something that they should be doing. The 2 best running backs on the team ended up getting in trouble, and now not only do they hurt themselves, but they killed his team early in the season if they get suspended.
Oh, yeah, if they both get suspended that first week against the Browns, I'm really interested to see what the line would be. Steelers without their top 2 running backs going up against a good defense, and their offense hasn't looked that great so far. I'd be really interested to see what the line would be in that game.
That final would be like 9-6.
Yeah, no touchdowns, all field goals.
But I do want to ask you this, Johnny. Going back just to the preseason, how much of the preseason can you really gauge into how your team is going to do throughout the regular season? Because there's so much, like, the starters don't necessarily play too much. Rather than week 3, they get most of their time. They might get a half, and that's considered a lot of time. But a lot of it's just they run a set or 2, they have a couple series, and then that's it. So how much can you really gauge?
It's a tough question. For me, it depends on the team. I think if you're a good team, like the Patriots or the Saints or the Denver Broncos, I don't think preseason means that much. I think if you know you have a good squad that's going to compete, preseason doesn't really matter. But for a team, I'd say like the Tennessee Titans, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or the Cleveland Browns, I think it's a good gauge as to what to expect a little bit because your team hasn't had a lot of success lately, and your starters, they're going to need to prove themselves because, frankly, you're going to have roster spots that are open for a lot of competition more so than already established teams. So I'd say if you're an upper echelon team, preseason record, and it doesn't really matter at all. But if you're a team that's in the bottom half, I think it matters some. You also want to instill some confidence in your fans that you're going to be somewhat okay because it might affect their ticket sales or something. But I think if you're on the bottom third, I'd say it matters. And fans think it matters because they're watching games even though it's preseason. So That's my opinion. If you're a good team, it doesn't matter. If you're a bad team, I think you got to look into it. Or if you're a team that's rebuilding or reshaping itself, like your New York Giants, who we'll get into, I think it also matters.
Oh, God. I was hoping you didn't mention them. But, yeah, no, I completely agree with you. If you're a team that, is a playoff team, I feel like that they don't even take not that they don't take preseason seriously, but they kind of just do it in stride just to kind of get it over with. The starting spots, for the most part, are decided. You know who your quarterback is, who your running back is, the wide receivers. I think that, like you said, with well-established teams, you don't necessarily need 4 games to figure it out. But for teams, I think it's, like, bad teams know they're bad. Like, they know. But it's for middle-of-the-pack teams to kind of figure out, to kind of find their identity if they can in those couple games. Like, who's going to be that receiver that's going to be a good slot guy, or or this quarterback's playing better than expected, which we'll get into. So yeah, I think it's for those middle of the pack teams that really get a lot out of. A lot out of the preseason, despite I think it's way too long.
I agree.
The regular season to start, but I think for those middle of the pack teams, they definitely benefit from it.
Yeah, we agree there. I think preseason should be 3 games. I think the 4th game means absolutely nothing. Because the starters aren't going to play at all. It's just another rest week for them. I think you got to make preseason 3 games long.
Or if you play in the Hall of Fame game like the Giants and the Bills do, you have 5 preseason games.
Yeah, I mean, it's more chance for injury for them. I think preseason should be 3. But we agree that the middle-of-the-road teams definitely, they have the most to gain from preseason in terms of it mattering.
Yeah, without a doubt. 5 is ridiculous. That shouldn't be. I wouldn't even want to play in the Hall of Fame game. It'd be too much of a mess. I mean, the Giants clearly they need as much help as they can get. But I'm just saying, for 5 games without even having regular season game first, if I'm a coach, I would hate it.
Yeah, and that first preseason Hall of Fame game, your playbook is probably really up to 8 long because what are you going to put in there that you only had training camp for a couple weeks or so? What are you going to put in there that could possibly matter?
Yeah, no, I completely agree.